On a stormy night, as thunder echoed and rain beat furiously against the windows of St. Luke's Hospital, the usual night routine was abruptly interrupted by an extraordinary event. A majestic tiger, its fur gleaming like fire under the hospital lights, burst into the main lobby. Its grand and fierce entrance caused immediate uproar, sending doctors, nurses, and patients scurrying for refuge. "A tiger!" screamed a desperate doctor. Nurse Mary, known for her courage and composure even in the most chaotic situations, was one of the few who didn't succumb to the general panic. Her eyes widened, not with fear but with fascination, as she observed the magnificent animal that, contrary to its wild nature, seemed to be searching for something or someone. The tiger, despite its intimidating appearance, moved with a strange urgency rather than aggression. Delicately held in its powerful jaws was something that looked like a small cub, but clearly not of its own kind. The cub, drenched and trembling, emitted a fragile sound barely audible over the storm and screams. Driven by an impulse to help, Mary cautiously advanced towards the tiger. "It's okay. I'm here to help," she said softly, trying to convey calm through her voice and posture. Meanwhile, the hospital's head of security, Mr. James, was already on the phone with local authorities, reporting the critical situation. "We have a tiger loose in the hospital. Yes, a tiger. We need help immediately." Mary, realizing time was essential before the situation escalated further, signaled for others to keep their distance. She observed that the tiger, despite its grandeur, showed signs of exhaustion and fear, its ribs subtly visible under its wet fur. Deciding to act, Mary guided the tiger and the mysterious cub to an isolated room used occasionally for storing medical supplies. Once inside, she locked the door, finding herself enclosed with the two enigmatic creatures. "We'll get help for both of you," she promised as the tiger gently placed the cub on the floor and retreated to a corner, watching Mary's every move with keen, penetrating eyes. As she waited for help, Mary examined the cub, which, despite its exotic and unknown appearance, seemed incredibly fragile. She didn't recognize the species but was determined to save this innocent creature's life. The next few minutes were tense, with Mary working to stabilize the cub using her medical knowledge and available supplies. The tiger watched silently, its heavy breathing syncing with the sound of rain hitting the roof. Outside the locked room, the hospital began mobilizing under Mr. James' command, preparing for what could be a long night of uncertainties. The presence of the tiger and the discovery of the unidentified cub raised questions demanding answers. Where did they come from? Why would a tiger bring a cub of another species to a human hospital? And what did it mean for all of them? Mary felt she was on the brink of a deep mystery, whose answers could change not only her life, but also the understanding of the relationship between humans and wild animals. As the storm raged outside, she knew the true storm was just beginning, engaging the experts and unraveling the mystery. As the night progressed, the tension at St. Luke's Hospital was palpable. Mary kept constant vigil over the cub and the tiger, both calmed by her tranquil presence. The tiger, exhausted, rested with one eye always open, watching every movement around it, while the cub, now wrapped in warm blankets, showed signs of recovery. Outside the locked room, the chaos had given way to a coordinated operation, led by Mr. James, who worked with the authorities to ensure hospital safety. Police and an animal control team were already on site, preparing for any eventuality. The moment of tension was interrupted by the arrival of Dr. Richard Benson, a renowned big cat specialist urgently called in to handle the situation. Tall and imposing, Dr. Benson carried an aura of authority and knowledge. "What's the situation here?" Dr. Benson asked Mr. James as he approached the room where Mary was with the tiger and the cub. "We have a tiger and an unidentified cub isolated in this room," explained Mr. James, pointing to the door. "Nurse Mary is in there with them. Somehow, she managed to calm the tiger." Dr. Benson nodded, his serious expression softening slightly. "Let's see if I can talk to her and understand better what's happening." Approaching the door, Dr. Benson knocked gently and called out, "Nurse Mary, I'm Dr. Richard Benson, a big cat specialist. Can you tell me how things are inside? Mary, hearing the calm voice of the specialist, responded from inside the room. The tiger is calm now, and the cub seems to be recovering. They are here with me, safe for now. Encouraged, Dr. Benson asked for permission to enter, assuring he would take all necessary precautions. Mary cautiously opened the door, allowing Dr. Benson to see the unusual scene before him. Observing the tiger lying peacefully, Dr. Benson approached slowly, maintaining a respectful distance. He examined the cub with a look of curiosity and concern. This cub is not of the same species, that's clear. It has characteristics I don't immediately recognize. Mary, relieved to have someone with specialized knowledge by her side, shared her observations about the tiger's behavior and the cub's condition. Dr. Benson, listening attentively, began to formulate a hypothesis. It's possible this tiger escaped from somewhere it was kept in captivity. That would explain its familiarity with humans and perhaps even the presence of this cub, which I suspect is from a rare or even unknown species. The specialist then proposed an action plan. We need to transfer them both to a safer, more equipped environment where we can properly care for them and investigate further. Meanwhile, news of the tiger and the mysterious cub in the hospital began spreading, attracting media attention and creating a crowd of curious onlookers and reporters outside the hospital. The situation called for swift and discreet action. Dr. Benson, Mary, and Mr. James began coordinating with the animal control team to organize the safe transfer of the tiger and the cub, while taking every measure to keep the situation under control and away from public eyes. With dawn approaching, they prepared for the next step, aware that every moment was crucial, not just for the safety of the tiger and the cub, but also for unraveling a mystery that could change the understanding of wildlife and its preservation. As morning broke, with rays of sunlight cutting through the mist of the previous night's rain, the team led by Dr. Benson, Mary, and Mr. James worked tirelessly to organize the safe transfer of the tiger and the mysterious cub to a suitable facility. The pressure to keep the situation controlled was intensified by the growing presence of journalists and curious onlookers outside the hospital. Dr. Benson had contacted a wildlife rehabilitation center known for its excellence in caring for big cats and rare species. They are ready to receive our 2 unexpected patients, he explained, checking the final details on the phone. This center has quarantine facilities where they can be monitored and treated without the risk of exposure or additional stress. Mary watched, worried but confident in Dr. Benson's expertise. She had formed a special bond with the tiger and the cub during the tumultuous night and felt a pang of sadness at the thought of parting with them. How will we transport them there? She asked, looking at the tiger, which lay with an imposing calm, still vigilantly observing every movement around. We have a specialized team on the way, with proper transport equipment, Dr. Benson replied. We'll lightly sedate the tiger to ensure a smooth trip. As for the cub, it seems stable enough to be transported in a special incubator. The animal control team arrived shortly after, equipped with a large transport crate for the tiger and a heated incubator for the cub. With careful and coordinated movements, they prepared the animals for transport. Mary, though relieved to know they would be in good hands, felt anxious as the tiger was gently sedated under Dr. Benson's supervision. Mary approached to whisper some comforting words. You're going to be fine, big friend. We'll take care of you and your little one. With everything ready, the tiger and the cub were carefully placed in their respective transports. The operation was carried out with efficiency that minimized stress for the animals and kept the curiosity of the press at bay. Mr. James, coordinating with the police, ensured a secure perimeter so the transfer operation could occur away from public eyes. The convoy set off towards the rehabilitation center, discreetly escorted by the police. During the journey, Mary and Dr. Benson discussed the next steps. Once they're settled and safe, we'll need to run a series of tests to better understand the condition of both, Dr. Benson explained. And especially, we need to identify the exact species of the cub and how it came to be with a tiger. Mary nodded, absorbing the implications of his words. And about the tiger, you mentioned it might have come from captivity. Does that mean there's possibly someone out there keeping these animals illegally? Exactly, confirmed Dr. Benson. And that's something we'll need to investigate thoroughly, not just for these animals' safety, but to ensure there aren't others in similar or worse situations. Upon arriving at the rehabilitation center, they were greeted by a team of veterinarians and wildlife specialists. The tiger and the cub were taken to the quarantine area, where they began their recovery journey and where many questions awaited answers. As the gates closed behind them, Mary felt that this was just the first page of a larger story that was only beginning to unfold at the Wildlife Rehabilitation Center. An atmosphere of scientific expectation enveloped the team as they prepared for the arrival of the tiger and the mysterious cub. The quarantine facilities, usually reserved for special cases, had never housed such an unusual combination of residents. Mary, still closely involved, watched as the specialists transferred the tiger and the cub to their new temporary accommodations. A safe and quiet area had been prepared, ensuring that stress for the animals was minimized as much as possible. The tiger, even under the light sedative effect, remained alert, its large, expressive eyes scanning the environment with instinctive caution. Dr. Benson coordinated the operation, giving precise instructions to ensure everyone's safety, including the animals. "Let's keep interactions to a minimum initially," he explained to the team. "We want them to get used to the environment without additional pressures." The cub, now more active and curious, explored the small space of the incubator with intrigued looks at the humans around. The medical team was particularly interested in it, given its rare and unknown condition. Preparations were underway for a series of genetic and medical tests that could uncover the truth about its origin. Meanwhile, Mary took a moment of calm to talk to Dr. Benson about the concerns raised earlier. "Doctor, about the tiger, how can we start investigating where it came from? It's evident it was under human care, given its relatively docile behavior." Dr. Benson, looking thoughtfully at the tiger now resting with a contemplative gaze, replied, "I'll contact some conservation and law enforcement organizations that work with animal trafficking. They might have records or reports of missing or illegally sold tigers. That could give us a clue." Their conversation was interrupted when one of the center's veterinarians approached with an update. "We conducted a preliminary battery of tests on the cub and found some anomalies in its genetic structure. It's early for conclusions, but initial results suggest it might be a descendant of a species thought to be extinct." Mary and Dr. Benson exchanged looks of surprise and concern. "This is extraordinary," said Mary, "but it also increases the responsibility on us. We must protect this cub at all costs." "Yes, and that includes keeping all this under wraps until we fully understand what we're dealing with," added Dr. Benson. "The last thing we want is to draw undue attention to it." In the following days, the rehabilitation center became a hub of intense scientific activity. Genetic and conservation experts were called in to contribute their knowledge. Each test on the cub brought more questions. Each look at the tiger increased the urgency to discover its origin. For Mary, each day at the center was a journey of discoveries. She spent hours observing the tiger and the cub, documenting their behaviors and the visible bond between them, something that transcended common understanding. A constant reminder that, in the natural world, stories are often more complex and surprising than one might imagine. As the mystery of the cub deepened, the gears of a larger investigation began to turn, promising revelations that could shake the foundations of animal conservation and challenge preconceived notions about wildlife. As the investigation into the origin of the tiger and the cub deepened, Dr. Benson and his team of experts established a collaboration with local and international authorities specializing in animal trafficking. The hope was to discover connections that could lead to the tiger's former captivity, which might be key to understanding how an animal of a potentially extinct species ended up under its care. Meanwhile, Mary continued to spend hours at the rehabilitation center, now firmly involved in the daily care and observation of the tiger and the cub. She meticulously documented every interaction between them, noting how the tiger demonstrated surprisingly paternal protective behavior towards the cub. Her notes would become crucial in understanding the dynamic between the two creatures. On a cold and foggy morning, the team received a visit from a conservation genetics specialist, Dr. Helena Vargas, who brought advanced equipment for more detailed genetic analysis. Dr. Vargas, a soft-spoken woman with an intensely focused look, got straight to the point upon arrival. The genetic information of this cub could change what we know about biodiversity and extinction. I'm here to ensure we extract and interpret these data correctly. With Dr. Vargas leading the genetic tests, the team focused on the cub. Initial results suggested that the cub might be a direct descendant of Tasmanian tigers, considered extinct for over a century. The revelation caused a stir among scientists and conservationists, bringing a new urgency to protect the animal's genetic integrity. Meanwhile, Dr. Benson followed a promising lead about the tiger's origin. With the help of records recovered from anti-animal trafficking operations, he identified an illegal captivity that had recently been dismantled in a distant country, where exotic animals were kept for illegal sale. It's very possible that our tiger escaped from there, Dr. Benson explained to Mary during one of their regular updates. We're organizing an expedition to investigate the site and find more evidence. At the same time, Mary faced her challenges at the center. Global attention was growing as rumors about the discovery spread. Despite efforts to keep the case under wraps, she often found herself answering questions from journalists, adding a layer of stress to her already heavy load of responsibilities. In a parallel development, a team led by Dr. Meneses set out to the dismantled captivity site. What they found there was shocking. Abandoned facilities that once housed a variety of exotic species, including tigers. Equipment and documents left behind suggested there was an extensive and well-organized network behind the trafficking of these animals. The data collected on-site were grim but valuable, providing crucial pieces of the puzzle about how the tiger could have ended up so far from its natural habitat. Photos, transport records, and notes left by the traffickers offered a glimpse into the brutal underworld of the illegal animal trade. Back at the rehabilitation center, Mary and Dr. Vargas prepared for a press conference where they would reveal some of their findings to the world, aware of the impact their words would have. The truth about the cub and its protector, the tiger, was about to become global knowledge, challenging old concepts and possibly encouraging a new wave of conservation efforts. As the day of the press conference approached, Mary felt the weight of responsibility grow. The discovery of the cub, potentially a Tasmanian tiger, and the story of the tiger escaping from illegal captivity had undoubtedly captured global attention. Dr. Meneses, alongside Dr. Vargas, finalized the details of how they would present their findings, aware of the impact their words would have. At the rehabilitation center, the tiger and the cub were adjusting to their new environment, now fully adapted to meet their needs. Mary spent every day watching them, noting behaviors and interactions that would help the team understand their needs and personalities better. The bond between them only grew stronger, offering a rare glimpse into a deeply touching interspecies relationship. Meanwhile, Dr. Meneses returned from the expedition with crucial evidence about the illegal captivity, including videos and photographs documenting the scale of animal trafficking. We have enough proof to help authorities track and dismantle part of this network, he commented, preparing to share this information during the press conference. The press conference was organized in a large auditorium within the rehabilitation center, with journalists from around the world present, and live broadcasting to ensure the information reached a global audience. Mary and Dr. Vargas were backstage, reviewing their speaking points one last time. "Are you ready?" Dr. Vargas asked Mary, noticing her nervousness. "As ready as I'll ever be," Mary responded, taking a deep breath. "It's important that everything goes well today." When the moment arrived, Dr. Meneses initially took the floor, explaining the situation of the tiger and how it came to be found at the hospital. He then gave a detailed explanation of the investigation into the illegal captivity, showing impactful images on the screens behind him. Next, Dr. Vargas presented her findings about the cub. "What we have here, we believe, is a young Tasmanian tiger, a species considered extinct for over a century. Genetic analyses confirm that it is a direct descendant, suggesting the species survived in isolation or that there was undocumented backbreeding." The auditorium was silent, everyone absorbing the implications of these revelations. Journalists' cameras captured every moment, broadcasting this surprising story to the world. Mary then spoke about the need for conservation and protection, both for the tiger and the cub. This case highlights the importance of vigilance against animal trafficking and the need to protect all species, known and unknown, from human threats. The journalist's questions were many and varied, ranging from requests for details about the captivity to questions about measures to be taken to protect the cub and other potential animals in similar situations. After the conference, as the world digested the news, Mary returned to her work at the center, feeling somewhat relieved but knowing the real task was just beginning. The story of the tiger and the cub had captured global attention, and now it was crucial to seize this moment to foster concrete actions in wildlife conservation and the fight against animal trafficking. With international community support now assured, Mary, Dr. Meneses, and Dr. Vargas prepared for the next steps, determined to make a lasting difference in protecting these magnificent creatures and their legacy for future generations. What do you think of this story? Do you think they acted right? Leave your comment below to know your opinion. It is very important to us. If you like this exciting story, help us by leaving a like and subscribing to our channel. Thank you very much for watching us and see you in the next story.